Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna do a really fun segment of Ask Mona Fragrance Edition Part 2. And as always, before we get started, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you get updates for when I upload new videos. And like this video if you enjoy it, and comment down below, give us your next questions because I want to keep this as a regular segment for my channel. I love answering fragrance questions and also non-fragrance questions too. If you have another Ask Mona question, feel free to share it down below and we'll definitely try to answer it as soon as possible. So for the first question we have, where did your inspiration come from for creating Kayali fragrances? Honestly, my inspiration for creating a fragrance brand started from my very first obsession with fragrances, which started when I was really little. I've always loved fragrances so much, and I've been collecting fragrances since I was 14. And when I moved to Dubai, that's when my real inspiration started. It was when I realized there were so many amazing parts of the Middle Eastern culture and their rituals when it came to fragrances that I was like, you know what, this is just so much more than putting on a perfume when you leave the house. This is a part of the culture, it's a part of the heritage, it's a part of the celebrations, it's a part of life, it's a part of art. It's like celebrations and everything. Every moment has fragrance as a part of it. So it just made me fall in love with fragrances even more. And when I started venturing into entrepreneurship, that's when I was like, if I can ever work on something that's purely out of passion one day, it's gonna be a fragrance brand. That's when the idea for Kayali started, and there's a touch of my Middle Eastern heritage in every part of Kayali. So it's really important to me to celebrate the Middle Eastern part of the fragrance rituals. How much money did you invest on Kayali for the first step? So this is a tough question for me because we launched the brand under Huda Beauty, and we used a lot of the shared resources. So we used a lot of employees from the Huda Beauty team. We still have a lot of shared resources, to be honest. A lot of our employees are shared Huda Beauty employees. We only have a few people that are specifically working on Kayali. It's very complicated to kind of map out the exact amount we used for investment, but I do have to say that if you are planning on launching your own fragrance brand or any brand for that matter, it really depends on what your launch preference is. Like if you're gonna launch globally with the retailer like Sephora, you do need a big budget, and it's challenging honestly because you have to get every single detail right, and it's like on a big scale. So there's many different routes you can take for it. So if you want to produce something with a small budget, I recommend doing a lot of things that I didn't do, because obviously like I was thinking big, global, I want to create a brand from the beginning. So I did everything custom molded, custom glass, custom cap, custom everything, which is very expensive. But if you want to start small, use stock glass, use a stock cap, start with small quantities. Maybe you produce only 100 to 1,000 units. And start from there. Don't produce something where you're gonna have too much risk if the stock gets left over. You know, perfume does expire over, 4 or 5 years. So you wanna think, what can you sell within a year's time? And through your network, through your community, just start with your community first and just see how you will grow over time. Majority of the biggest brands that we all know today started with our community, like Jo Malone, who's now like one of the biggest brands in the world. I think they sell something like $500 million a year. Started in her community in the UK. So you don't have to start big, but you have to be patient and you need to be dedicated and have the passion to keep going. How does one start their own fragrance business? You can go in so many different directions. It's not just one route. There's so many different routes to take. And I think you need to think of what is the route that works best for you. So if you have a small budget, you want to do everything by yourself, you're a one woman, one man show type of situation where you're doing everything yourself, then start small and just figure out, what you're trying to create. Like, why are you creating a brand? Do you want to create a very special juice that's very unique and very different that you've never tried before? Is it about the quality? Is it about the ingredients? Is it about the packaging? And in the best scenario, it's about all of those parts, because you really want to create a really great brand. You need to be very different. Figure out why you're starting it, and then figure out how you're going to be different from everybody else, and then how you're going to launch. So I do feel like this question is so big and it could probably take an entire video just dedicated to this. And if you guys want it, comment down below and let me know, because I could go on forever about this. But I think start with why you want it so you can figure out how you're going to create it and how you're going to be different and stand out. But then also For me, the first part was researching a fragrance house that I was gonna work with. There's so many different fragrance houses. There's a lot of big ones, there's a lot of small ones. You know, I decided to go with Firmenich because, to be honest, the people working there were just so helpful and incredible. And after getting to know them, I love them even more because they're just one of the best perfume houses ever. Still privately owned too, which is awesome. So like they really care about what they're doing. It's not like bottom line or profit driven. But there's so many different options. There's fragrance houses all over the world. There's the large ones, there's the tiny ones. I met with many in Dubai even years before I launched Kayali, and they're just independent fragrance houses with a nose or even a lab technician just mixing things together. So there's so many different routes. You need to decide on that, decide on the type of fragrance you're going to launch, and then the branding, the bottle, the packaging. Look for a supplier. Like honestly, there's many suppliers online. You can go to different trade shows. There's so many different ones that happen all over the world. Obviously with COVID, it's a little bit challenging, but if you just Google online like a bottle packaging supplier, you're gonna find many options there. Look for perfume trade shows as well. Like there's many things that come up. So you really need to do your research. And this applies to like every type of business, not just a fragrance, but with anything I ever decide to venture into, I'm just like Googling for weeks, months, sometimes even longer. Sometimes it's like many months of just Googling and research, because the more you find out, the more you learn about, the more you can understand how you're going to do things better than if you didn't know everything. So it's really important to just keep researching. Could you take us through the process of designing the juice from scratch? To be honest, I wouldn't say that every time we launch a fragrance, it's the same process. This is like a typical scenario. So typically I will brief the perfume house or the nose specifically, what kind of scent I'm trying to create, what kind of mood. I really focus on mood and like a few notes. So like as an example with Utopia, the mood was like beachy, holiday, summer vacations, sunshine in a bottle, happiness in a bottle. And the notes that I wanted to focus on was vanilla and coconut. So I was very specific about that. And when we shared that with the perfume house, they shared it with a couple noses that they had in mind, as well as the ones that we handpick, which is always Gabriella. She's like my favorite, and she says she knows me really well by now. And they brief it to all of the noses, and then they come back with submissions. So we have like maybe 10 different directions we can go into, and you evaluate them. You smell them on blooders, you smell them on skin, smell them on clothing, smell them on different people. So it's a long process of just testing, and then you decide on which route you want to go into. Sometimes it's many routes, you want to keep testing different ones, and then you keep changing it and you keep adding notes, adding ingredients. The perfumer usually gives their ingredients that they suggest, and then you give yours as well, and you keep going back and forth with ideas. So it's like a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of mixing and matching. It's a lot of testing. Like I can't tell you how many times I've just like had to wash my arms repeatedly throughout the day just to have like fresh skin, which is probably my biggest challenge. I think my biggest challenge with Kayali is like having skin to try fragrance on. Like you can't, it's so hard. You can't really test more than like 2-3 on each arm maximum at a time. Like even that is a lot. In an ideal scenario, you want to test 1 on each arm, but it's really challenging. Like if you guys saw around my room right now, I have like on that one table, probably 40 samples and like samples everywhere, but it's just like, I can't try them all the time. So that's probably the toughest part. But that's basically how the juice starts, and you keep going, keep testing, and then you get the final juice at the end. It's the one that you feel the best about, the one that you feel stands out the most, and the one that you feel really captures the vibe that you're trying to create. And just another fun fact for all of you guys who haven't seen this before or heard it before on my channel, but for us with Kayali, we try to share with you guys as much information as we can. So the number on our actual bottle represents the number of trials and modifications that we went through to get the specific juice. So like with Deja Vu White Flower 57, it was 57 mods to get to that specific one that we chose in the end. So lots of back and forth, lots of passion, lots of driving people crazy, including driving myself crazy, but it's definitely worth it to get something that's really special and unique in the end. What inspires you when creating a new fragrance? Is it by an ingredient or experience? So I feel like this kind of goes with the last question, the answer that I shared. So it's kind of a mixture of both. It's a mixture of like the mood I'm trying to create, the vibe, the picture, as well as the ingredients as well, because I think that both are very important and they kind of go hand in hand. Like I feel like some ingredients really create a specific mood. Like if you mix like coffee and rose, it's going to be very like energizing but sexy and rich and luxe, you know, versus if you mix like florals and citruses, it's kind of like fun and playful and energizing and more like fresh and youthful. So I think they really go hand in hand. What scents are you working on in the moment for Kayali right now? What can you tell us? Truthfully, I can't tell you because I'll get fired. I'm just kidding. No, I can't really talk too much about what I'm working on right now because honestly speaking, what I'm working on is usually what's going to launch in like 2 years, sometimes even 3 years from now. So there's a lot going on. I'm like in my perfume basement right now and I'm just looking at all the samples here. There's a lot happening, but yeah, I can't say too much or I'll get in trouble and I'll ruin our launch plans. But I do want to say stay tuned and we have an exciting year ahead, like a very exciting year ahead. If you guys have any suggestions, please feel free to share down below. If you have any specific notes or ingredients that you think Kayali should work on, let us know. I always love feedback, so any suggestions you guys have, please feel free to share. Is Kayali alcohol free? Kayali is not alcohol free. The only alcohol free product we have is our Deja Vu hair mist. That is alcohol free and it has a lot of nourishing ingredients for your hair. So we have aloe vera, camellia oil, panthenol, and castor oil as well. So it's very nourishing and no alcohol. But all the other perfumes have alcohol. It's really hard and very challenging to create an alcohol-free fragrance. Like alcohol really helps as a diffuser for fragrance. So when you have alcohol-free fragrances, if you notice, they don't project very well. They don't fill up the room very well because the alcohol really helps that. It just kind of, because the weight of alcohol is very light and very diffusive. So when you mix it with fragrances, it kind of like fills into the room. So unfortunately, we have not been able to make an alcohol-free perfume yet. And I don't know if we ever will because it just performance-wise won't really work. Which one perfume would you recommend buying from Kayali? Oh my God. That's a hard question because I think preference is so different. And I personally feel like every Kayali fragrance smells very different from each other. That's my personal opinion because obviously I worked on them, so I find them very unique. Some people say they have a similar smell to them, but I find them all very, very different. So I can't really say what would be best for everyone. I think it really comes down to preferences. If you want something that's like a safe bet and you like sweet fragrances, then I would recommend Vanilla 28. It's something that I would say the most people feel very like strongly about it. It's our best seller globally. People who love vanilla love it. So if you're a sweet lover, definitely try that out. If you like musky fragrances that are more soft and clean, I would try our musk. If you like vacation scents, go for Utopia. This is so hard, I can't. Yeah, it's just like they're all very special in their own way. My personal favorite from what we've launched so far is Sweet Diamond, but I'd have to say it's probably the most unique one and probably the one that will make people either love it or hate it. I don't think there's like a middle, so they call it polarizing. So I mean, that's my personal favorite, but I think you should really try it before buying if you can, or at least try to read the notes to see if those are ingredients you like before purchasing, because it's very hard to like recommend one thing for everyone. So we're gonna try and link down below a Huda Beauty quiz that we have on the blog so you can kind of try to get to know what your perfume taste and preferences are. What I do sometimes, like before I got really into fragrances, like back in the day, I would, every time I'd buy a fragrance that I love, or even the fragrances I already had that I loved, I would research online. I usually go to fragrantica.com and I would just see what are the notes in that in the fragrance. So I'd kind of get an understanding of like the fragrances I like. When you see there's a lot of common ingredients in the fragrances you love, then you probably love those notes. It's just kind of good to understand. And you could do the same thing with like fragrances that you've hated. Like if you know that you've smelled something before and you hated it, look it up, find out what's inside, and then see if it's something that stands out that's never been in the ones that you love. Maybe that's an ingredient you should stay away from. So it's good to know what your own preferences are. Do the noses actually work independently? Are they freelancers, or do they work for someone? So majority of the noses that we work with work full-time for specific fragrance houses. So the ones I work with all work for Firmenich. I've also spoken to other noses, and I've had samples from other noses from other perfume houses, but they all work full-time for those houses. I think when you go to the big ones like Firmenich and the other big perfume houses, they only have people who work full-time with them. And a lot of bigger companies like Hermes, Chanel, they have perfumers that exclusively work for them. Even Louis Vuitton, they got Jacques Cavalier, one of the best perfumers in the world. Now he's full-time for Louis Vuitton, he doesn't work for anyone else. So it's really interesting how some brands like swoop up people. I might need to steal Gabby and make her exclusive to us, but I would die if she ever went to another perfume house. But yeah, it's an interesting question. But noses are incredible people. There are not that many people around the world who have this role. It's a very hard job. I think that noses are really like artists. They're like Michelin star chefs almost. But I think it's even harder than cooking, if I'm honest, because it has so much to do with biology, how the perfumes are going to stick to different people's skins, how it's going to react over different time frames. It's like such a complicated job. It has a lot to do with physics as well and chemistry. It's a really, really, really tough job. So that was actually our last question. We kind of flew through these today. I just want to say thank you again to every single person who shared their questions. I really appreciate it. And please remember to comment down below your new question so we can try and add it for the next video. And like this video if you enjoyed it. It really does help us when you like the video, you share the video, you comment. We really appreciate all of it. As always, I'm going to end this video with a quote. So our quote of the day is by the amazing Ralph Waldo Emerson, and it is, "Happiness is a perfume you cannot pour on others without getting a few drops on yourself." And isn't perfume the same thing? I feel like it is. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I love you all so much. Stay happy, stay blessed, and stay wearing perfume. Mwah. Love you all. Bye.